Hey everybody, how's it going? Nexius here. I hope you guys had a great weekend. You're having a great day today. If you're not, I hope your next day is great. Now, today I wanted to talk about Diablo 2 Resurrected. I almost called it Reforged because, well, we know why. Before we get into all the information that I scooped up through interviews, BlizzCon, etc., I just want to say a few quick words. First of all, I'm glad to be back. Hopefully my commentary is not rusty. We'll see with this video. Second thing, Blizzard and Vicarious Visions, you guys are doing a great job so far. I see only a few changes I would like to make, but I'm just an individual. I don't care too much about the changes. You guys are doing good enough, and I couldn't be happier. That being said, let's just get straight into it, I guess. Not much else to say. So, first of all, Diablo 2 Resurrected is scheduled to release sometime this year. That's super great news. I was honestly expecting like a year or two from now when it initially was released, or revealed, I should say. But there is no exact release date. So this could be November this year. It could be summer, which is honestly unlikely because the next piece of information is that the technical alpha will be very soon. And Vicarious Visions did say they plan on having 5 or 6 different alpha tests. Each alpha is going to be planned to be played on single player, and there's no multiplayer testing as far as we know. They specifically said it's going to be focused on single player. So if you were hoping to get into an 8-player multiplayer test on the beta or alpha, that's probably not going to happen until they say so. They seem to be very focused on gameplay in single player if you choose to, or if you end up getting the alpha. So we'll have to see. Now, Diablo 2 Remastered will be coming to consoles as well. This doesn't really surprise me because there's a lot of money to be made there, and if it's easily portable, I mean, why not? Now, the consoles it's specifically coming to is the Switch, the PS4, the PS5, and the Xbox Series X and S. So if you have any of those and you are a console player, my brothers do have a PS5. I'm not really a console player anymore. I do have a PS4, but I'm sticking to PC with this. So the next thing is related to consoles as well, because I'm sure it's on your guys' mind. If you're interested in console, no couch co-op is planned. So if you were hoping for couch co-op, it's not going to be there, unfortunately for you guys. Controller support will now also be available for console and PC. The console is kind of a given. The real news here is that if you play Diablo 2 on PC and you want to give controller a try, that's not going to be possible. That will not be me. I enjoy my Diablo 2 with a mouse and keyboard, so I'm fine just the way it is. Cross progression will be a thing. Now, this has to be specified because I saw some people asking this after the initial reveal, and they seemed confused. Cross progression is not the same as crossplay. So if you're playing Diablo 2 on PC, you will not be able to play with the console players. Cross progression is basically, let's say for example, I'm making a character on the PC and I get to like level 50 and I beat the game. Well, if I want to go play on console, I can take that sorceress and I can move it over to console and I can play it without having to restart. So that's what cross progression is. All the content you've done, all the time you spent into the game can be transferred over to another platform. The only downside here is that you have to buy the game again on that console. So if you want to play on both console and PC, you will have to buy 2 Diablo 2 Resurrecteds. However, you can constantly update your character on both, so you don't lose too much time. Now, compatibility and resolution will be updated to the 2021 standards. So Diablo 2, because it's an old game, the resolution is pretty bad. If you look at some of my past videos, you'll see that the game doesn't even cover the entire YouTube video screen. I have to use like a sorceress picture on part of it because it would be black otherwise. So it's really nice to hear that the resolution will be updated. So basically, compatibility and resolution will be updated to 2021 standards. D2R will also be attached to the modern Battle.net launcher, which is going to help a lot with combating the age-old Diablo 2 issues, such as connection issues, duping, bots, security, and anything else that's falling into that category. They did say that because it will be on the modern Battle.net and not the old Battle.net it's on now, it's going to have better security, basically. So any worry about bots, duping, connections, we'll have to see how well it really combats those. Because honestly, I'm a little bit worried still after seeing Classic WoW and how there's so many bots there, so I'm not really that confident in what they're saying here. So we'll have to see, I guess, when the game actually comes out. Diablo 2 Resurrection will not overwrite our current Diablo 2 installation. So for example, right now on my computer, I have Diablo 2. I have also in a separate folder, Path of Diablo, Project Diablo 2, /Diablo, and my 1.13 plugin. I have like 5 Diablo 2s. But if you're just a regular player on the original Diablo 2, either way, you do not have to worry. They have stated that Diablo 2 Resurrection will not only not overwrite these Diablo 2s, but they will also be a completely separate game from the original Diablo 2. And this is really good news because from Warcraft 3, which is one of the biggest issues with that game, is that they forced the old Warcraft 3 to merge with the Reforged system. So basically, if you did not like Warcraft 3, there was no way you could get back to the old Warcraft 3. And this really angered a lot of people because Blizzard left Warcraft 3 untouched for like 14 years. The game was fine on its own, and then they bring in Reforged, and now the game has a lot of issues, and there's no way to go back. So they basically ruined a 14-year-old game that was running fine on its own. So when Diablo 2 comes out with Resurrected, if you end up not liking it, you can always go back to the old one without issue. So that's really big news. Now, for a lot of players out there these days, we like to play single player. I play both, mostly single player and on reset nights. So I'll play a reset for like a week or so and then quit and go back to single player. So if you are one of those players on single player, you do not have to worry. Single player and offline is still available and compatible with the Resurrected. So if you go and buy Resurrected, you do not need an internet connection to play offline. This was one of my favorite things about the old Blizzard games was whenever the power went out or anything like that, you could just load up the game. Or sorry, not the power. When the internet went out, you could still load up the game and play offline. So that will still be possible. But if you want the Resurrected graphics, I believe the game at least once we'll have to have online just to check and see if you have Resurrected purchased, and we'll have to see if it keeps that way forever or if you have to keep authenticating it every time you load it up. We'll have to see. Another thing as well is Diablo 2 Remastered will be running on the current 1.14 patch. So as far as we know, there's no new patch coming out. It's not going to be behind a patch like 1.13. The current 1.14 patch is what Resurrected will be running on. Non-expansion characters. If you are one of those players that, out of like 5 people, still play the original Diablo, not the expansion, but the original Diablo, where there's no Act 5, no Assassin, no Druid, you will still be able to make non-expansion characters. And this is a pretty big deal, not only for those players, but I know there's people out there that like to do classic rushes and then convert the character into an expansion character. So those will still be possible, which is great. PvP and trading have not been changed in any way. There are no plans to have microtransactions either, which is amazing. The fact we even have to have interviewers ask if there will be microtransactions just goes to show how fallen, I guess, the gaming industry has come. It's just really unfortunate. Back in my day, I sound like a boomer even though I'm only 27. The fact we have to expect microtransactions, which is not really anyone's fault. Just look at Call of Duty 4 Remastered as an example. That was originally supposed to be untouched, and then they bring in these loot boxes and custom weapons, right? I didn't really have a big problem with it, but it just goes to show really that even in a lot of remasters, they're sneaking in microtransactions. So there are no plans to have them, which is just great news. Now, when it comes to mods, they recognize the historical importance that modding is to the Diablo community. They do not plan on touching any of the mods, and they have said to be making game files easier to read for these modders, which is great news. As for the cutscenes and cinematics, all 28 minutes will be fully remastered. This is not just a simple up-res version or AI-enhanced 4K like we saw with Warcraft 3. They said it's actually going to be all new scenes, all new models, like we would expect from a modern Blizzard title released today. They are remastered cinematics with the original audio, and they're going to keep the graphics and the way the whole cinematics work almost exactly the same, just basically with beefed up graphics. So I'm really excited to see these cinematics. As for the graphics and visuals, as we obviously know, that comes with a remaster. They will be fully remastered graphics and visuals in ultra-high definition 4K. The game appears much darker and more sinister, very reminiscent of Diablo 1. I think this is a really good change. The only thing that's up for debate is it too dark currently? Who knows? We'll have to see what the alpha testers and what you guys think in the comments below. Personally, I love how dark it is. I saw some of the clips in the tower, in the crypt, and they really look like Forgotten Towers and crypts. It's amazing. I love how dark it is. That was one of my favorite things about Diablo 1. The art engine is a new 3D 60 FPS that runs on top of the original 2D 25 FPS for original game, allowing Diablo 2 Resurrected to stay true to the original game logic, just with better calculations and better visual effects. So simply put, if you looked at or played StarCraft Remastered, it's going to be just like that. It's going to have a new coat of paint, as we have already seen the gameplay. It's going to have nice graphics, but it's going to run just like the old game. And you can also switch between the new graphics and the old graphics, just like in StarCraft Remastered, and it will look something like this in the gameplay. Unique items that we know with special icon art will now show on your character. So for example, the Lance Guard shield was brought up as an example during BlizzCon. The spike shield looks a certain way, but then when you identify it, the Lance Guard looks very different. So any items that have a unique visual like this will be shown on your character, which is really cool. Most of the audio and sounds are the exact same sounds from the original Diablo 2, just in remastered quality. They wanted to keep the iconic sounds that we've come to know and love with Diablo 2 for over 20 years, such as the sound a gem or skull makes, or the sound of a barbarian's war cry. Some ambient sounds they have added though, such as the subtle sounds of maybe wild animals when you're running through the Kuros jungle, or a few extra sounds your character makes when they get hit by a monster. So we'll have to see what exactly they added and see how much of a difference it makes, but for the most part, I'm really excited to hear that they kept a lot of the sounds. Again, to use Call of Duty 4 as an example, they changed the sound on the AK-47, which is one of my favorite weapons in that game, and it's just not the same anymore. So I'm really glad they kept a lot or most of the original sounds, whether it's when you're equipping that specific scimitar, or a full plate mail, or a charm, etc. Alright, probably one of the most favorite parts of the reveal is the added features. So they want to keep the game as original to Diablo 2 as possible, but they did add a few things that they said wouldn't change the game too much. And one of these examples is the original stash has been expanded for expansion characters. They did not want to increase the size on vanilla Diablo 2, however, as they agree with the classic Diablo 2 community that when you go back to play a non-expansion character, having a smaller stash is part of that charm, so they did not want to implement it into that. And on top of that, they also added a shared stash, which has been implemented so you don't have to mule anymore. Their logic behind this is that everyone mules anyway. You get a full stash, you drop your items on the ground, you make a new character, you join, and then you pick up everything. So you might as well just have a shared stash, which honestly I agree with. Now the only question is this on non-expansion characters? I would assume so, since it was not brought up that it wasn't, whereas the original stash expansion was brought up. So I assume shared stash is both for expansion and non-expansion characters. Stash hotkeys have also been implemented, or at least they're going to be implemented, they said. So for example, if you played any of the mods or pluggy, if you modify it, shift plus right click will give you the ability to automatically transfer items to your stash from your inventory, or from your stash to your inventory. I would assume that that's what's going to happen here, is that you'll be able to quickly move stuff to your stash or your cube, or take it out. So that's going to be a really nice quality of life. I really agree with this. An additional character stats page has also been added. If you are familiar with Pluggy or any of the mods, basically you can open up and you can see what your magic find percentage is, what your absorb percentage is, your gold find, your faster casting, all that stuff. So it's going to be really great to have this, as it's in a lot of the modern mods, so super happy. An item comparison has also been implemented. Now keep in mind, this is not like, say, Diablo 3, where if you hold shift, you'll see what your item is, what the item in your inventory is. It will compare the two, but it will not be like Diablo 3, where it shows what's an upgrade. And they explained it quite well actually at BlizzCon, where Diablo 2's item system is very unique in the sense that every class can use everything, and it's kind of difficult to see what's actually an improvement or not. So they're just showing a basic, hey, this is what you're equipped, or this is what you're equipped with, and this is what you are looking at right now, and you can compare the stats yourself and make that decision. Additionally, there is an option now to automatically pick up gold. I really love this feature. I think it's great. However, keep in mind, they made it a toggle option, I guess. Basically, you can choose to turn it off or on. So if you're one of those purist players where you don't like the idea of automatically picking up gold, you can actually turn it off, which I think is great because some players just want to play that way. Personally, I'm not like that. It's very annoying picking up every piece of gold, so I'm really happy with this change. Automatic gold pickup is a good move. Speaking of automatic features, automatic partying has also been implemented. So that annoying part where you join a game and you have to manually invite 7 players as they join, or you have to accept it, that goes away. Keep in mind, it's also a toggle feature. So if you don't want this, for example, for PvP games, you turn it off and you should be able to PvP. The realms we know as US East, US West, Europe, and Asia are all going away and will be replaced with a global server. This is really great news because I have a lot of friends on US West and they can't play with me because I'm on US East, and it goes for a lot of people out there. So we can all play together, including Europe and Asia, which is great. My only concern here is there a way we can choose what realm or like server we get? Because I'm on the Pacific West, and the last thing I want to do is make a game or join a game and it's Europe. So I hope there's a way to choose what server you can create or join. Otherwise, I'm going to be leaving a lot of games when I find out I'm in a really far server. So that's my only concern with this feature, but otherwise I think it's a good one. Duplicate names will now also be allowed. So if you are looking for some of those GG names, people will get 3-letter names or whatever on Diablo 2. That doesn't really matter anymore because duplicate names are now allowed. Characters will no longer expire. This is a really great one as well. I guess it doesn't matter as much anymore since duplicate names are allowed. You don't have to be worried about your name being taken. But at the same time, I guess it's also great because you don't lose your character if someone did end up taking your name. So characters will no longer expire, which is great regardless. You can now see all games regardless of difficulty. This is really great. This is a huge quality of life change. I saw at BlizzCon, they did kind of use this as an example. Mr. Llama made a comment about, killing normal Bale by accident, and now you can't see any normal games. And I loved how the developer one-upped him by simply saying, you can make a level 1, and you'll see normal games again. So this impressed me because it really shows that these developers either played or they did enough research to know some of the workarounds that us players have come to learn and know about the game, some basic workarounds. So like these developers have either done their homework or they played themselves, and that's really nice to see and reassuring when it comes to making this game as good as it can be without changing it too much or making big mistakes. When it comes to the Battle.net lobby chat, you will be able to link items in chat now, which is really cool. So if you found a high spider or a low spirit or something and you want to trade it, you can link it in chat. That's really cool. I like this quality of life feature. Kind of curious how it will end up working. How are you going to be able to link it? Do you have to like go in a game or copy paste it? Like, I'm curious how that's going to work. But either way, you will now be able to link items in chat. That's pretty cool. The friends list is no longer a /FL part of the game. It's basically a big list popping up. That's gone. It will be just like all the other modern games where it's a tab you open up. So StarCraft 2, Diablo 3, you pop up that tab open and you see your entire battle tag. That's basically how it's going to be, just like every other Blizzard game. So I think that's a good quality of life and happy to see it. One of my other favorite parts of this reveal is that ladder seasons are said to be shorter. They did not give a time change on how long the ladder seasons will be. They are currently 6 months. If I had to guess, they are going to follow the rest of the mods, which is 4 months. So I'm expecting ladder seasons to be 4 months now instead of 6. I can't really see them going any shorter than 4 because it's already difficult to find burr runes, high runes, all that kind of stuff, unless you're a botter. But assuming that gets fixed, it's going to be pretty rare to find some of these items, so I expect to see 4 months like every other mod. Speaking of ladder, the ladder leaderboard will now have a search feature, and it will show your rank at the bottom. So currently on the ladder, you have to like scroll all the way down through the list to find yourself, or you just press it. But it's always going to be down there, and you don't have to press anything. So it's a nice little quality of life. There's a search function, which is also a nice quality of life, I guess, if you want to find your friend. Also, on top of that, there will be past leaderboard seasons. Say a few years from now, you want to go and see how well you did, or you want to see what your friend did or a random guy did, you can go and look at their past leaderboard progression, and that's pretty cool. Additionally, VPNs should no longer cause issues and realm downs. These are some of the pain in the ass issues with Diablo 2 currently because it's an old game. So if you use a VPN currently, you would get issues with realm downs and being kicked off. Realm downs from joining games too quickly. That's happened quite often. So that should be nearly non-existent. They still don't want players spamming games constantly, though. So if you're thinking about doing that like we do on mods, that's not going to really happen. They have some kind of safeguard in place. In regards to other info that they announced, no plans for a loot filter. I saw some people asking for loot filters. That's not going to happen, at least for now. It could be in the future if enough people ask for it, but currently there's no plans for a loot filter. Gem and rune stacking. I'm guessing the Project Diablo 2 players have loved this ever since Project Diablo 2 was a thing. They said there's no plans for gem and rune stacking. Probably not at all, because they did mention that it's kind of part of the game and making your space in your stash, so they don't like the idea of gem and rune stacking, so I don't really think that's going to happen, but you never know. Additionally, no plans for enabling ladder rune words in single player. I think this one is a mistake. A lot of people these days that still play Diablo are on single player, so enabling those ladder rune words on single player I think is a good idea. Their reason for this, they said, was that ladder rune words are a good incentive to play online and on the ladder, and I disagree with this because there's a workaround to use ladder rune words anyway, or people will just go and play the pluggy mod on the old Diablo 2, kind of like what we do currently because we need that extra stash space. So I think it's just worth putting in the ladder rune words for single player. It just doesn't make sense to really not do that. In terms of Mac users, there's no plans currently for Mac, so if you were on the Mac, and I know one of my friends that were really disappointed with this news. There might be an announcement in the future, they said, but currently right now, there's no plans for Mac compatibility. They mentioned that they are also looking into ultra-wide monitors, so if you are one of those people, I'm definitely not one, I don't even have 2 monitors, but if you are one of those people who have ultra-wide monitors, they are looking into that, but they are worried because the way Diablo plays, as it is an old game, there are parts of the game that will be affected by these wide monitors. One simple example will be that monsters, you'll see them standing around doing nothing because you were limited on your screen resolution. So when it's out of the screen range, they just stand there. So it's going to look kind of awkward and look bad for the game. But otherwise, also spell ranges, spell distances, I think that is affected by screens as well. So we'll have to see exactly if they choose to work around that in some way. But either way, they said they were looking into ultra-wide monitors. When it comes to the individual bugs in the game, they said they are looking at every single individual bug. They want to fix the bugs that negatively impact players while choosing to leave other bugs that players have not only discovered, but they have turned out to be actually a pretty good part of the game. So some examples of bugs that they want to fix would include invisible charged bolts. So sometimes the beetles and stuff will send off so many bolts on the screen that it cannot like register them, something like that. So you would have invisible charged bolts and people would not see them and they would die instantly. So that's one example where they might want to fix that. Another one, really common, actually, I lost a character to this years ago on hardcore, on my Holy Grail hardcore source. Basically the snakes in Act 5, so if you're going to go farm Neelathak, those snakes there, they drop poison clouds, but sometimes they are invisible and it kills you instantly. So they want to look at fixing that as well. The Nightmare Fire Enchanted bug and possibly Mana Burn, they're looking into that one as well. As for the bugs that they consider okay to leave in the game, this would include the E-bugging armor bug. It would like get 50% bonus defense if I remember correctly. So E-bugging armor, they want to keep that bug in. The Andorial Quest bug, they also want to keep that one in. And the trick to get Duriel stuck so he's easier to kill, or the moat trick for Mephisto, as everyone knows to magic find him easy. They want to keep all those in because it's part of the game and doesn't really negatively impact gameplay and is good for the players as well. And the final piece that I have here, as far as I know, is that because of the global servers, the Diablo clone functionality has changed quite a lot. It's based off IPs and based off the separate realms, but because all the realms are going to be together, it really changes the way the Diablo clone functionality works. They are working on the numbers to keep it similar to how it works now. We'll just have to simply see what they come up with, if they even decide to let us know. But they did say they're looking into it, as that's a big impacted piece of gameplay due to the global servers, so we'll have to see. So overall, that's a lot to take in. Mostly, basically, their philosophy seems to be that they want to keep Diablo 2 as close as possible to the original, and only make very, very small changes. No balance changes are planned, no new content like maps or an extra act or anything like that, no rune words. They just want to keep the game the way it is, and after release, they will see what the community thinks and they might consider any future changes. So we'll have to see. But this is the perfect time to leave your opinions and your feedback. I will be doing that in future videos to make sure that I get my voice heard, even though I probably won't even get my voice heard because I'm just a small YouTuber, right? So we'll see. But either way, I'm really excited for this Resurrected. I always want to say Resurrected and Remastered together, or Reforged. There's too many R's. I almost just want to stick to Remastered because it's easier, but I'm really excited for this remaster simply because they want to keep it faithful. And I'm also kind of happy that they did Warcraft 3 before this, because now they learned their lessons from it, and that pretty much almost guarantees, or at least increases the chance of this turning out quite well. They learned their lesson from Warcraft 3. So overall, I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts in the comments below. What you think of Resurrected, what you think of some of these features and changes, or maybe some features that aren't coming. So if you were hoping for class balance, if that's a problem to you, leave your feedback in the comments below. Go to the Diablo subreddit, leave your opinion there, tweet at them on Twitter, go to the Diablo forums, do your thing, because this is the time to do it before it comes out. So overall, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you hopefully on the next one.